Hi everyone, my name is Emily and I'm the community manager for 2 Diabetes, working with Diabetes Hands Foundation. And this is our second week for 2015 Master Chats. And today we will be talking about diabetes and travel with Dana Shafer. But before we start that, I want to give folks a little bit of background about what this Master Chat series is. This is an annual project. This is in its 4th year. And it's a collaboration between 2 Diabetes and the Teachers College Columbia University's Master of Science in Diabetes Education and Management program. This program is a 36-unit interprofessional master's program, and it's offered to clinicians who are currently in or interested in joining the field of diabetes. As part of the course requirement, students present these master chats on a variety of topics, which they have chosen based on discussions taking place in 2 Diabetes and also on their areas of expertise. And they include a short presentation followed by question and answer time so that folks who are watching get to ask questions from our presenters. And then we have an opportunity to give feedback to our presenter if we would like. So what the intent of this program is to really be a bit of a give and take between students in this program and members of 2 Diabetes, because these students are folks who want to work with people with diabetes, and we are people with diabetes. So it's a great opportunity for us to share some ideas with them about good approaches to working with people with diabetes. And with that, let me introduce you to Dana Shafer. First off, Dana, please tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do now, and why you're taking this master's program.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here. I am a pharmacist, and the reason why I have a strong interest in diabetes is because as a pharmacist, I think we are available. We are there. We are open for 12, 14 hours a day, and I think we are accessible. And since we are accessible, I think it is our duty for patients with diabetes to be able to, instead of just providing your medications, to be there to be able to answer your questions, be there to help with your lifestyles, and be there to help you answer your management questions and be there for you in any way we can. Yes.
We love that. That sounds like wonderful, wonderful support. I have to say, I don't usually think of my pharmacist as that kind of resource. I tend to think of my pharmacist as the person who hands me my meds when I order meds. So that's a really neat take on it from you. So let's get into talking about diabetes and travel.
Okay, so I chose travel because as a pharmacist, I used to work in New York City, and people have come in from everywhere, parts around the United States, parts around all types of countries that we can think of, and they've had all types of crises. My medicine's damaged, I can't find it, what do I do? So the pharmacy is a good place to start. So it can be stressful when you're traveling, just enough these days getting your belongings from one place to another, getting yourself from one place to another. And I know as patients with diabetes, getting your medication and supplies together, it seems like it's an extra hassle, but if you can get some planning together, you can put your worries aside. So before you leave, there's a couple extra things that you need to do. An up-to-date list of all your medications. Some people have a current list, but it's just something you should do before you leave. So you need to have the brand name and the generic name. It's really important, especially when you're traveling overseas. Some countries, the brand name here could be a different generic in another country. So here, say, Dilacor is one generic. In another country, Dilacor could be a different generic. So if there's an emergency situation, you don't want to get the wrong medication. I mean, that is just critical. So on your list, you should have, in addition to the names, the strength, the directions, your pharmacy name and phone number. As I said again, accessibility. If you were somewhere and it's 2 a.m. and you're in an emergency room, you're trying to get your doctor, that could be difficult. It's sometimes easier just get the pharmacy, they can read the list off, and that works better. So you should have your doctor's name with you as well. And also with your list, have your diagnoses and your conditions. We all know these containers, the days of the week, I don't know if it's coming up clearly on the screen, they help you with taking your medications easier. It's easier to remember, but they open really easily. So if you're packing this in your travel-on, they can open. I've had people bring these in a plastic bag, and they're open. There's a pile of medications in disarray. They don't know what's what, so we try to reorganize it, identify the medication, and put them back together. So again, they're helpful, but when you're traveling, they can be difficult. So keep the medications in the original container. Even if you take 15 medications, it might seem like it's bulky, but it's the safest thing to do. Also, you need to know that you have enough medication with you. So for your oral medications, count them out. So you want to make sure you have enough for your entire trip, plus a few days to spare. Same thing with insulin, make sure you have enough, plus a few days to spare, an extra vial, an extra pen. Your pharmacy can help you if you need to contact your insurance to create an extra supply for you. It's something that might seem like a hassle, might cost a little extra, but it can be done. Also, keep your medications with you. They need to be on your carry-on, on your person. You don't want to keep them where luggage can be lost. They can be in heat. They can be in a cool environment. It just gets dangerous. If you have liquid medication, especially insulin, you need to seal it in a plastic bag, and you can put bubble wrap is approved, something to just contain it so it doesn't get damaged. When you're flying, all medications, as long as they are labeled, can go through airport security, but there's a few key points to remember when going through checkpoints. Aerosols, gels, and liquids on your carry-on, 3.4 ounces, 100 mLs or less, can go through X-ray. If you don't want your medications to go through X-ray, you just say, most X-rays are not going to harm your medications, but you can just tell them if you're not comfortable with it, you don't want to let go of your medications, that's fine. You can keep them with you. Nothing wrong with that. You just tell a security guard, let them know I want to keep them with me. That's fine. Also, what you're allowed to take with you, you can take your own juice, your own liquid nutrition. You just declare it to a TSA officer. Nothing wrong with that. You can do it verbally. You can do it in writing. Someone traveling with you can also tell a TSA officer or a family member that these products need to be kept separate and that they are medicinal. You can also tell the screener you are carrying diabetes supplies with you. If you're wearing a pump, they may want to visually inspect it, and that you're requesting a pack down instead of going through the metal detector. That is absolutely acceptable. They cannot tell you that you must go through the screener. Again, it is safe to put the medications through the X-ray, but you have a right to say, I'm not comfortable with that. That's fine. You can fly with insulin. You can fly with pens. You can fly with an unlimited amount of syringe when accompanied with insulin. You can also fly with unused syringes as long as you have a Schwartz container. Lancets, alcohol swabs, meter control solution, all approved. An interesting thing is flying through time zones. Most medications can be taken at the normal time in the same new time zone. If your travel time is short, you can try to take medications according to the elapsed time between doses. Or you can adjust medication by 1 to 2 hours to a time convenient to the time zone. So 1 to 2 hours, we're not really worried about hypoglycemia when adjusting to time zones. Insulin injections also may need to be adjusted across time zones, but you can plan in advance so you don't have to feel like you're going to be in harm's way. So if you're going east and the day is shortened, you may need less insulin, especially if you're eating one last meal in the day. when you're going west, your day is going to be extended. So you might need an extra injection 4 to 6 hours if your third main meal. So other things can happen. Flight delays are really common. You might have decreased physical activity. You're sitting a long time, and you might need more frequent blood sugar checks. I'm sure you guys are all used to that. So if you're only using oral medications, taking 2 doses of a medication too close together, you need to avoid that to prevent hypoglycemia. So the other things that are important when traveling that I don't like to mention, but it's all true. Your medications are very valuable to you. They might look valuable to someone else for a different reason. So keep them close to you. When you're in a hotel room, you need to keep them locked up. Obviously, the refrigerator is not going to be locked up. And the other thing that is a whole different talk is purchasing medications overseas. Again, something you don't want to do. There are licensed pharmacies, but pharmacies are very different in other countries. So you want to avoid it unless there's an absolute emergency. And again, if you are purchasing something in another country, you want to call a pharmacist or physician back home before you do so. So when traveling with your medications, there's a lot of things you have to think about, but with a lot of preparation, it can really go smoothly. So I hope maybe I cleared some things up for you guys today. If you have any questions,
absolutely. We do have questions.
Sure.
So one question already in the chat room is it true that when traveling with insulin, if you're going through TSA, if you're flying, that you need to present the insulin in its original box with the pharmacy label on it?
They probably will want to see that. Yes, that's how it will go smoothly. If you don't have a prescription label on it, they will consider it an over-the-counter item. And if it says RX only on it and you don't have a prescription label on it, that will slow things up. If you have an insulin that does not say RX only, it will be treated as an over-the-counter item where the liquid restrictions will apply. Most insulins are prescription, so you do want to have an RX label on it.
All right. And is there, you said that if you wear an insulin pump, that you don't have to go through the screener, that you can request a, I always do it, a female assist. I guess it would be a male assist if I were a man. A pat down. I call it my free airport massage. Although it doesn't feel as good as that would imply. But is it really necessary to do that? Do any of the X-ray machines, I know there are a few different kinds at this point with varying strengths. Do any of those actually pose any danger to an insulin pump?
They do not. They do not. It's just your personal preference. If you are uncomfortable with anybody seeing that you have a medical device, if you are uncomfortable that they will not understand what the device is for, that is where you have a right to do that. Sometimes I have heard that people have told me that they were concerned that somebody would think it's narcotics or somebody that they would think it is for a purpose other than what it was for. So that's why they chose to do that.
And do you know if the same is true for continuous glucose monitors?
Correct. There will be no damage through an X-ray machine. Correct.
Awesome.
Which is very important because we know that's most important. Yes.
Right. Right. My concern has always been, well, maybe the thing doesn't look damaged, but it affects the readings. I don't know. But if not, then doing the pat down takes more time. So it's not the most convenient thing in the world.
Exactly. I think it is more a question of if the screener is just unaware the purpose of the devices, and it just might make somebody uncomfortable that they would have to explain it. So if they explain it beforehand, it just makes the process a little bit smoother.
Mm-hmm. All right, so here's another question in our chat room. This is, what about if someone runs out of medication? How do you get more if insurance has already paid your amount for that month?
Okay, that is an excellent question. Yes, and that would require usually just a pharmacist would generally be happy to take care of that for you. Most insurance companies do authorize vacation supplies or emergency supplies. I usually I feel awful if a patient has to call and take care of that. Pharmacists are used to calling insurance companies. So usually what we do is just call them, explain the situation, and you can get an override in place. That's if you are in the United States. So usually you can just go into a pharmacy. A pharmacy would still need a prescription. So they could call your usual pharmacy, obtain the information from them, in turn fill the prescription at the local pharmacy and call your insurance. So we try to make it as easy as possible for the patient. Where it is tricky is if the patient is overseas, because an American prescription is usually, in fact, definitely not valid overseas. So that becomes very difficult. A lot of medications can be purchased overseas, sometimes not even requiring a prescription, but you need to be certain it's the same thing. So usually it's just best to see a physician over there, or go to a hospital over there. And unfortunately, that's not what you want to be doing when you're traveling. So planning ahead is the best, but we know things get lost and things happen, and it's unfortunate. But the best thing to do is go to a pharmacy, explain the situation. Hopefully you have your insurance information with you. If not, it's just another phone call that can be done. Usually one pharmacy calling another pharmacy can get all that information for you. And it happens. Don't think you're the only person that's ever happened to. It happens a lot.
Yeah, I have definitely, while traveling, found myself I ran out of test strips once, completely out, and I still had several days of travel, and almost ran out of insulin once. It was terrifying. I know it's such a scary experience, and we had somebody else in the chat room who said that she has also experienced a sort of diabetes-related crisis while traveling. So it's an important topic. Here's another question in the chat room is, can we purchase U100 insulin in other countries?
That's interesting. You can. A lot of countries, there is U40, there is U80. A lot of countries do have U100, yes. If not, there's a lot of conversion that needs to be done. Yes.
Oh, there's no end to the diabetes. How about, we have someone in the chat room saying, I once heard that people with diabetes can request a hotel refrigerator to store insulin. Is that true?
That is true. Yes, I have heard that, but I know in the United States that is true, and most places are very accommodating. I have had patients ask me if they can get a lock for a refrigerator. That is something that I heard is not often accommodated, just because they're not comfortable leaving things behind. Yes, but I don't know how accommodating each hotel would be. But I've had people ask me that question. Yes, just working a pharmacy, we've sold a lot of cold packs for that purpose. Yes.
So how about, speaking of cold packs, two things that people with diabetes frequently need, and we need your recommendations for what to do with these things when traveling. One is, do you have a recommendation about safe and legal Schwartz disposal while traveling, and also best ways to keep insulin cool, as you said, if you're not staying in a hotel with a refrigerator that you can keep it in?
So we know if you don't want to buy many Sharps containers, obviously, you know, a container where you can self-contain them, you know, a milk carton or something like that. But it's very interesting in that other countries are not as diligent as we are. We know that there's many hospitals in other countries that are not as fortunate as we are to even have such infection control as we do and things like that. So we are very fortunate in this country that people do take the care they do to protect others from safe disposal of things. I mean, we've all heard of rogue places that don't, you know, take as good care of medical waste as we'd like them to. But right, I mean, in a lot of places it is a courtesy that you dispose of your medical waste as kindly as we do here. But right, I mean, if you don't want to, Sharps containers are bulky, right? Even a used soda, thank you for not drinking soda, a bottle, a water bottle, even something as nice as that is acceptable in most things, just to protect needles and things like that. Right. Right. So if you need to keep insulin cold longer than expiration dating at room temperature, so we know a lot of insulins are good for 28 days at room temperature, 14 days at room temperature, and things like that, which is nice for travel. A lot of people do use lunch packs and things like that. There are thermometers you can buy to monitor temperatures and things like that, but it's very involved and a difficult thing to do. So it gets very complicated. So we know cold packs do not get as cold as a 25 degrees Celsius, as cold as a refrigerator. So you can purchase those and get a thermometer and monitor things like that. It's a difficult process, but generally it's best to know that your insulin can be at room temperature for a certain time and then keep it cold as a place when you get there and try to refrigerate it as soon as possible for your countdown.
Fantastic. Dana, this was great. We've run out of questions in the chat room. So you have done a beautiful job. Thank you so much for your time and for tackling this really, really important topic. And good luck with the rest of your master's program. We appreciate your time today.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you being here. Thank you. Take care.